On a quiet street in Oxford, a seemingly unremarkable physicist held the keys to America's most guarded secret. This man, Klaus Fuchs, wasn't just working on the Manhattan Project. He was systematically feeding its most critical data, piece by agonizing piece, directly into the hands of the Soviet Union. The implications were catastrophic. Born in Rüsselsheim, Germany, in 1911, Fuchs grew up in a tumultuous era. His father was a Quaker pastor and professor, a man of strong pacifist and socialist convictions, values that deeply influenced young Klaus. As Nazism surged, Fuchs, a committed communist, found himself in direct opposition to the regime. His political activities quickly made him a target, forcing him to flee Germany in 1933, narrowly escaping the Gestapo. He sought refuge in England, a brilliant theoretical physicist by then, and continued his studies at the University of Bristol and later the University of Edinburgh. His academic prowess was undeniable, his intellect sharp and focused. With the outbreak of World War II, Fuchs, like many German immigrants in Britain, was interned as an enemy alien. A harsh irony for a man who had fled Hitler's regime. However, his scientific talents were too valuable to keep locked away. Through the intervention of prominent scientists, he was released and soon began working on Britain's own atomic research program, tube alloys. It was during this time, in 1941, that Fuchs made his first contact with Soviet intelligence. His motivations, he would later claim, were ideological. He believed the Soviets, as allies against fascism, deserved access to this world-changing technology. He began passing information to Ursula Kuczynski, a German-born communist agent known as Sonia. Their clandestine meetings were often mundane, a walk in the countryside, a brief exchange of papers. By 1943, the United States and Britain had merged their atomic efforts, forming the Manhattan Project. Fuchs, now a trusted and indispensable physicist, was transferred to the U.S. to work at the project's various top-secret facilities. His first stop was Columbia University in New York, where he contributed to the gaseous diffusion project, a crucial method for enriching uranium. The secrets he learned here were immediately transmitted. Then, in 1944, he moved to Los Alamos, New Mexico, the heart of the Manhattan Project. Here, Fuchs became a key member of Hans Beth's theoretical division, working directly on the implosion mechanism for the plutonium bomb. He had access to virtually every aspect of the bomb's design: the critical mass calculations, the initiator details, the precise mechanics of the explosion. He was, in essence, holding the blueprint. Fuchs met his Soviet handlers in various locations, often in New York City. He'd carry his highly classified notes, sometimes on a single sheet of paper, sometimes in detailed written reports, to clandestine drops. One of his most significant contacts was Harry Gold, an American chemist and courier for Soviet intelligence. Gold would relay Fuchs's information to Anatoly Yakovlev, the Soviet vice-consul in New York. The sheer volume and quality of the information Fuchs provided was staggering. He gave the Soviets theoretical designs for the plutonium bomb, details on uranium enrichment, and even preliminary work on the hydrogen bomb. His espionage is widely credited with significantly accelerating the Soviet Union's atomic bomb program, potentially by several years. This meant an earlier end to America's nuclear monopoly and the dawn of a terrifying new Cold War balance. After the war, Fuchs returned to Britain and continued his work at the Atomic Energy Research Establishment at Harwell. He was still a highly respected scientist, his secret life meticulously hidden. But the net was closing. American counterintelligence, aided by decrypted Soviet cables from Project Venona, began to piece together fragments of a sophisticated spy ring operating within the Manhattan Project. The Venona intercepts, though incomplete, pointed strongly towards a British scientist. In 1949, British intelligence, specifically MI5, began to focus their attention on Klaus Fuchs. He was interrogated by William Scarden, a skilled MI5 interrogator. Skardon used a calm, conversational approach, gradually breaking down Fuchs's defenses. Fuchs, surprisingly, began to confess. His confession was chillingly thorough. He detailed his contacts, the methods, and the vast amount of information he had passed to the Soviets. It was a complete admission of guilt. In March 1950, Klaus Fuchs was sentenced to 14 years in prison, the maximum penalty for espionage under the Official Secrets Act at the time. He served 9 years and was released in 1959. Upon his release, Fuchs emigrated to East Germany, where he continued his scientific career, eventually becoming a director at the Rossendorf Central Institute for Nuclear Research. He died in 1988, a celebrated figure in the GDR. Klaus Fuchs's story remains one of the most significant and damaging acts of espionage in the 20th century. He was the atomic spy who, motivated by ideology, reshaped the geopolitical landscape and ignited the nuclear arms race. Explore another tale of Cold War intrigue and the secrets that shaped our world.